So how does that extrapolate to trading? Well, if we look at the outcome of the trade is random and we look at the casino model, we can say to ourselves, listen, if we have a strategy that is a 55% probability of working, now we then know that if we do that enough times, we will make money. However, we do not know what the outcome of the next trade may be. You may even have a strategy that over time you've worked out. And again, I realize that this, just by saying this in a way, you have to make some assumptions, because we're not using something like a coin toss where it's a physical probability that we know 100% certain is 50-50. We know with a trade setup, we kind of got a good idea. It might be something that we know happens very infrequently, but is very profitable for us over our own history, or if we're back testing it or whatever it may be. And we can kind of put some odds on that, but it's difficult to put a finite odds on it, but we can have an idea. So let's say we have something we know works kind of 50% of the time, but it's got a decent risk to reward ratio, so it makes a good payout to take the trade. From a psychology perspective, we have to appreciate that we don't know when we pull that trigger if we're going to lose money or make money. All our job is as traders is to execute that trade as best as we can, in line with our parameters, in line with our rules, in line with our strategy, and let the odds play out. If we're buying a pullback trade after a big momentum, after volume, after whatever the parameters we like to put into the trade, and we know that it works most of the time, let's just be loose about this and not put a finite percentage number on it. We know that if we're buying at some point around here, if we're using a fib or whatever we may be using, moving average, that we're going to at least sort of take out the high by a decent amount, okay? I'm being very loose with this, but we know that that kind of is what happens when we take the trade. So we should take that trade systematically whenever we see the setup and whenever it occurs. However, we don't know if this time we take it, because 4 out of 10 times we just go right back to the bottom. Okay, so how does that relate to psychology? We have to accept that, not go in with too much size, because that could wipe us out, because really all we're doing is taking a random punt. If we're going in too much size, we have to have the size that can stomach a multiple occurrence of that trade. So if we take it again and again and again and again and again and again and again, the net of that is going to be profitable for us. So accepting this and going into it and saying, listen, this looks like a good trade. I don't want to get too caught up in believing this is going to make me money, because if I tie that and anchor that money making to this trade, I'm not doing myself the service of being a professional trader or amateur trader, whatever trader you're at. But you ultimately, wherever you are in your career, you want to make money. But you're not doing yourself the credit of believing that you're acting like a casino and saying, listen, I have a strategy that works. I know that if I employ it enough times, I will make money. However, I must accept, as the casino does, that on every spin of the wheel, on every trade that I take, the outcome could be negative for me, it could be positive for me. So vice versa, we don't get all excited when we make money. That's our kind of job to do, to make money, and we don't get too despondent when we lose money. That's why it comes into this point here where risk is so important. Risk management is so important, understanding that even if we've got the best strategy in the world, we could lose a series of trades before we even have a run of good trades. And you end up discarding that strategy because you think it's a losing strategy, when ultimately it was a winning strategy. Now, some of you may be sitting here, standing here, wherever you are watching this video, saying doesn't make any sense, because how can you put a valuation or a number or a percentage profitability on a trade? And I do agree with you. You cannot put a finite number on it and say this is definitely the odds of the trade working, because even if you've back tested it, even if you're a numbers guy or girl and you've gone back and you've done all the Excel and you've done all the programming or whatever it may be, and you've come up with a number that it works X% of the time, that still does not mean that's gonna be exactly the same in the future, unlike a casino wheel, unlike a blackjack table, unlike a coin toss. However, it does give you a guide, and as traders we're always adapting, we're always getting new strategies, but if something works for you, yourself that a strategy you may have works more often than not. You may not have a figure on it, but it works more often than not. That's all you need to know. You don't have to be too detailed with the number. The point is, it works more often than not. It still doesn't work from time to time. So understanding and accepting this, and when you accept this and go into the trade, you can kind of be a bit more free. Now, some of the things, without going down this rabbit hole of frustration and despair of sometimes having a string of losers, yes, it can be your performance that you're just trading badly and you're just trading stuff that you shouldn't be, and you'll know that in your heart. But there's also a time you're trading well and you're gonna have a string of losers. You traded the best you can, you've traded the best setups you can. Now, this is where you can get comfortable with this and say, listen, this is expected to happen. I don't need to make any corrections. I don't need to go crazy and start, doing different things and adding different parameters in. Let me stick it out. Let me play the game. Let me look for the long game. Let me know that if I stick this and work with it and keep executing as I should do, over time I will make money. Now, okay, let's go down another rabbit hole here and say that there are times when the strategy no longer works. It no longer works for the market conditions you're in. It no longer works for anything. And that's the skill of a trader, is to say, hey, this is not working as efficiently as it should be. Is it me? Is it the strategy? Or is it just the numbers not playing out? Now, there are loads of strategies out there, profitable strategies out there. You can find them. They're the easiest thing in the world to find. Plenty of profitable strategies out there. You probably have some of your own. There are some you can find on the internet. Give you some in these videos, future videos, previous videos. I know they're profitable. They've worked for me. They've made money for me. They've made money for others. But the skill of a trader is knowing when to employ them, when to put them into action, when to adjust them, when to step them back, and when to know that they are still working, but they're just not working for this time or this sequence of events or this sequence of spinning the wheels, if we use the analogy of a casino. So accept each trade is random. Don't worry about it. Dial down your risk to suit that and understand that, and that will be a far more comfortable position to be trading from.